But today we have a professor who is worth every ink and every line in his name. He's going to review the book. He's the Dean of the School of Media and Communication. Please join me in welcoming Professor Biakolo.
Chairman, Your Excellencies, Your Lordship, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when your boss gives you an odd job, because it's not routine, and this is the job of reviewing a book on him, what do you say? Do you dare say something untoward? Technically, however, the task did not come from this boss, from Dr. Kolade. It did not even come from the direct hierarchical boss, the vice chancellor. It came only as a request from the editor, my colleague and friend, Mr. Richard here. But you might well say, the hand is Esau's, but the voice is Jacob's. Your Excellency, Dr. Kolade, is this true or false? At any rate, I found this a rather taxing job. Not tasking, but taxing. Not tasking because I really enjoyed reading the volumes. See, but before the pleasure, there was also the tax question. And why? Because it was initially a great demand, not on my intellectual resources, because this is the business we are trained for, but on what the intellectual, the academic world holds dearest of all, intellectual integrity. Now, integrity is a much used word in our Nigerian universe, and you can also say that it's a canonical word in ethics. However, you can also say that it's, as a canon, is more observed in the breach. It is a word that is bound to be repeated at this forum, because after all, we are all gathered here to honor a man of integrity. But the tax bill that Richard Kiebe and his co-conspirators, if there are any others, they sent to me was this. If I do not find the material in these volumes worthwhile, do I have enough integrity to say so? If I do not think that what is contained in these volumes, these triple volumes, is really the work of Dr. Kolade, but the labors of the coterie of assistants, PAs, speechwriters, etc., may I say so publicly? You see, at the School of Media and Communication, at Pan-African University, I have led speechwriting workshops. And as a scholar in the field of the communicative relations of writing and speaking, my surmise is as accurate as yours, that most speech is produced by leaders of corporations and governments have the voice of Jacob and the hairy hands of PAs and special assistants. For that reason, specifically and earnestly, I raised this question with the editor. And I was assured with utmost canonical solemnity, if you will, that Dr. Kolade writes his speeches himself. Let me labor this point a little bit. Even if the voice were Dr. Kolade's and the hand were another's, what about the mind behind it, the thought behind it? Are these thoughts, or if we may use a collective term, is this thought Dr. Kolade's or not? Departing now from the role of reviewer to that of a former student under Kolade, and that of a subordinate at the Pan-African University, I can also affirm with as much solemnity as I can master, though not, of course, the solemnity of the canonical kind, that I recognize the thought in these volumes as most assuredly that of Dr. Kolade. Now, you may confirm this when you have bought your own copies and read them. Frequently, people go to book launches and they pay handsomely for the volumes, but my experience is that they leave these volumes not to grace their minds, but their shelves. And I hope that this fate does not befall Kolade's Canons. That the books will be bought, and even more importantly, will be read. So let me now talk about the text itself. The structure and the content of the text. You see, this monumental work is in 3 volumes. Volume 1 printed in orange color, and I'm still working at the significance of the colors. It's titled People, Leadership, Management, and it begins with an introduction, which is a sort of biographical sketch of Dr. Kolade. But at this point, alarmingly, this introduction contains a material error at page 7, using Roman figures. The author refers to Dr. Kolade as the Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of the Lagos Business School. To the best of my knowledge, Dr. Kolade is no such thing. He is Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of a Pan-African University. Now, this is a material error that many people are guilty of. But if I know Dr. Kolade's excellence of mind, not even the minutest error should be allowed to go. The first volume has 3 successive sections, 7 chapters of leadership and governance, that's the first section, 8 chapters on management, 15 chapters on human resources. The second volume, printed now in blue cover, and as I said, I'm still working on the significance of these covers. Perhaps Dr. Kolade, between Dr. Kolade and the editor, they will enlighten us, or perhaps the editor and the publisher. This volume, titled Business and Economy, Nation Building, Ethics, has the following content. 9 chapters on business and economy, 14 chapters on nation building, and 11 chapters on ethics. The third volume, printed in purple, is subtitled Broadcasting and contains material in 4 sections. 12 chapters on policy issues, 9 chapters on professional issues, 6 chapters on management. Again, management. But there is a 4th section that is needlessly titled Back of the Book, and this section has 4 chapters. Now, as you may have noticed, I have pinpointed a few errors, but they are superficial errors. And it's so easy to find errors if you look hard enough at anything. But none of the errors I've pointed out can either obscure or is intended to obscure a truly magnificent achievement by Mr. Richard Kiele. As some of you who are in the business of classes will know, even Homer, the great Homer himself, not educationally. This work, Kolade's Canons, is a landmark effort. It is truly really monumental achievement in respect of the subject who has embodied the healthier, sterner, firmer fiber of our nation's soul. So now let me take you through my own brief summary of the thoughts, the canons of Kolade. What are these canons, and on what subject matter has he weighed in with what the introducer of the subject of this book calls gravitas, probitas, urbanitas, associated with him over a half-century of service to Nigeria? I summarize these under the following rubrics: leadership, management, corporate governance, ethics, and professionalism. Under leadership, Dr. Kolade believes that the key to leadership is accountability. Personal integrity is not only part of character expected in a leader, it is a requirement of leadership. At the output end, leadership, of course, is behavior and performance, not about position. Because while the position confers authority, it is performance and behavior that confer respect. Again, for him, leadership is an influence relationship between leaders and followers. Therefore, acceptability, and indeed the acceptance by the led of the leader, is a crucial ingredient of leadership. Because from the follower's perspective, the influence relationship allows followers to be built up, to be developed through the tasks that are performed at the behest of the leader. But from the organizational point of view, leadership ensures that the entity's objectives, whether this entity be a corporation or a government, that these objectives are achieved, that the team is cohesive and its individual members actualize themselves. But I beg to say that the rich, variegated tapestry of Kolade's reflections on leadership can hardly be captured in a review of a few minutes. Anyone interested in this all-important subject for our country, as perhaps for the rest of the world, leadership is an all-important subject. I must encourage you to read Dr. Kolade's reflections on leadership. And the subject of management, Dr. Kolade, speaking once to the Harvard Business School Association of Nigeria in April 1994, states that the most important factor in management is the person of the manager. And you can see the relationship between his ideas on leadership and management in terms of the human person. Because the most important factor in management is the person of the manager, the values and the character of the manager are central to management and management decision making. These values and this character are developed as the manager builds up knowledge, skills, and insights. And these attributes and competencies need to be continuously maintained and sustained through the changing dynamics of the business environment in order for the manager to remain relevant. Thus, Mr. Kolade advocates a habit of lifelong learning. To quote, I quote from him, "Learning is truly a lifelong activity, and it is mainly through learning that the manager builds upon his personal attributes and acquires the knowledge, skills, and insights which he needs to succeed in the general management position." Volume 1 at page 91. Again, management is about responsibility, authority, and accountability. You can see again these terms recurring as they first occurred in the discourse on leadership. Responsibilities must be clearly defined, as this is the only way that a manager can be held accountable. But in addition, the manager needs to have authority in order to exercise those responsibilities. It is thus on the basis of responsibilities and authority that the manager is accountable. The fundamental requirement in the area of responsibility is defense of the corporate interest. It happens frequently that given human nature, personal interest, and the conflicts that arise from sectional interest, these things might predominate in the decisions of the manager, and consequently, the corporate interest becomes secondary. Dr. Kolade speaks on corporate governance. On this subject matter, the role of the board is central to his reflection. Corporate boards, according to him, have the primary function of mediating competing stakeholder interests and ensuring fair returns for all. For shareholders, for employees, for customers, for suppliers, and so on. Furthermore, the board must maintain high ethical standards and insist on compliance with these standards by the management. Once more, Dr. Kolade stresses accountability. More specifically, the role of the board is not merely to approve budgets, plans, and strategies, but to monitor implementation, deal with statutory issues, make top-level appointments, report to stakeholders, and do the necessary periodical review of itself. Because in that sense, must be accountable to themselves as representing the owners. But all these cannot be fulfilled successfully if the membership structure of the corporate board is not carefully attended to. An important quality required of directors is independence of mind. While the number of directors will depend on the knowledge, skills, and expertise required by a particular board, there can be no substitute for this independence, particularly among non-executive directors. When Dr. Kolade speaks on ethics and professionalism, which is in a subject matter, you can see that he is at his forte. Dr. Kolade emphasizes the importance of training, of prestige, of standards, of codes of practice, and so on in the development of a professional, whether in general management or in specialized fields such as media, where, as you all know, besides teaching, Dr. Kolade first cut his teeth as a professional and manager. But professionalism for him is best represented in the concept of good service, as well as in the maintenance of high ethical standards that will safeguard client interests. So you can see again tying question of standards to service. As it states at page 237 of the first volume, professionals have a critical role in rescuing the corporate or even the national boat from sinking in the morass of corruption and ineptitude. Now, on this subject of ethics, a little noticed but highly significant thread in the discourse of Dr. Kolade is his understated but frequently made suggestion that the acquisition and sustenance of high ethical values in professional and management contexts is begin from the family and the community. As he says in a small piece in the second volume, indeed this was at a dinner speech in the 80s, and I'm quoting directly, "Our best values truly began at home, and the family was an excellent divinely ordained context for the building of the child in the hope that in adulthood he would turn out to be a good person. Our villages and towns, the indigenous community, had a habit of bringing up children in a collaborative way. Another aspect of community life was the culture of good discipline that ran through the entire community." This is volume 2 at page 135. In that same speech, he declares, each person needs to remember that integrity is a personal value, and this value facilitates good behavior and constructive interpersonal relations. So now, let's go back to the very beginning. This word, integrity, that is so easily bandied about. What does Dr. Kolade, Nigeria's Mr. Integrity himself, say about it? I quote him directly once more. "Perhaps I should share with you the definition of integrity." These are his words. "I should share with you the definition of integrity that I found most useful for myself personally. I believe integrity to be the moral courage to do what I know and believe to be right. The determination to do this consistently, whatever the situation. The determination to stand by what I believe, even if I am standing alone. The willingness to pay the price, if it is the cost of showing integrity. The stamina to stay the course and not give up along the way." Dr. Christopher. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, along, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I do not dare add a footnote to these remarks. These and similar nuggets of wisdom are what these 3 volumes are about. But just before I close, I must commend the wonderful work again done by Mr. Richard Kiebe, Director of the Center for Leadership and Journalism at the School of Media and Communication. The only question on my mind has been, why did it take so long for this to be done? How is it that no one thought of it before, had the courage and determination to carry it through? Therefore, salute the editor, Mr. Richard Kiebe, for making it possible to have in 3 collected volumes the benefits of reflection over half a century of action in service to God, humanity, and our nation by the inimitable Dr. Christopher Kolade, teacher, broadcaster, public servant, professional manager, boardroom genius, diplomat, and once again a teacher, but this time a teacher